You're not a good coach, you're not a good mentor, you're not a good parent if you aren't willing to call someone up and say, what do you think about this? Am I doing the right thing? How can I improve that means that you really are open to the process and the exchange that's happening instead of being sure that you are always right.
People, are you ready? Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, moms and dads, kids of all ages, it is time to let it shine.
Sing it, brother, sing it.
Alongside Lucinda K, I'm Dave Erickson. And I like this topic today, and this is something you and I talked about after last week's topic, is about, it's one-on-one communication, but this is more or less a nurturing type of relationship, or parent-child, maybe a mentor relationship type of topic. And there's so many different categories you can go with this, whether it's a coach-athlete, a parent-child. And you being a mother of two, there's got to be some sort of basic principles that you always rely on when talking with your daughters.
Yes, and remember that I've only had kids to actually parent for 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. Because brought home our child from Jamaica 5 years ago, and now we're raising another child from South Korea through high school. So they're both 17, and they are wonderful examples of nurture versus nature. Because I can assure you, these two girls communicate in a completely different manner than they did when they first came home.
So this is going to be a learned, a taught skill, something that we can share with other people. Here's some, some bullet points on how you can incorporate into your own life.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And we've practiced a lot and been willing to be courageous enough to take risks, right? And have enough stamina to keep trying something out. And if it doesn't work, then we tweak it and fix it. And there can't be any ego in this kind of thing, right? You can't always be right, and you certainly have to be willing to love and encourage and teach. So often people think that behavior is something that we punish, when behavior is something that we need to teach. We teach our children how to fish, we teach our children how to ride bikes, we teach our children how to read, and yet we expect them to just be born knowing how to behave. That's not the way it works. We have to model the behavior for each other, and we have to be willing to coach it.
And I have found in the past, when I was searching for that male figure in my life, that the type of encouragement that you got, or the type of direction you got, if it was in a positive slant versus a don't do this, do this, more the positive language can make a big difference in the mentality of who you're talking to.
And that's also how we visualize things, even as adults. It's much more effective to tell people what it is we want instead of what we don't want. If I say, Dave, don't touch the hot stove, you immediately see yourselves touching the hot stove. Whereas if I say, Dave, please keep your hands at your sides. Now you're going to carry out exactly what it is I want you to carry out.
That can be the same thing for when you ask someone what are their goals or what do you want to be. People might say, I don't want this, or I do want that. That's that little shift. And this is that little shift in a parent's mind or a mentor's mind that we need to keep aware of when we're talking to someone.
Yes, for sure. Please. And don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, you're not a good coach, you're not a good mentor, you're not a good parent if you aren't willing to call someone up and say, what do you think about this? Am I doing the right thing? How can I improve that means that you really are open to the process and the exchange that's happening instead of being sure that you are always right.
There are some parents out there and or coaches who are closed-minded to the idea of their style is not the right style. You know, they have
my way or the highway.
Well, they may think that negative feedback is better than positive feedback, or criticism, a negative criticism versus positive criticism. They think, oh, that's how you should do it. The old days of the football coach that says, you're not good enough. That reverse psychology. You're terrible. You need to get better than that. It's like, well, there are more effective ways to speaking. Do you have some word choices that you keep in mind? I mean, we already kind of talked a couple of them: do and don't, or hands to your side versus don't touch. What comes to mind to you?
It's about using specific language about the behavior that you are asking for. It's also about praising behavior when you see the correct behaviors. I really like the way you show up in the kitchen ahead of time. I'm so grateful you went out and got the car ready in the snow. I really like the way you handled that argument with your sister. So the more you praise positive behavior, the more you're reinforcing that positive behavior. There are always going to be times when you have to say, whoa, stop. That's just going to happen, right? Then you have to be willing to pause and process and think, okay, what's my next move here? What is it that I really want to gain out of this encounter with the child? So teaching the behavior that you want from the get-go. You know, when Trisana first came home, Patois is her first language, and she speaks English. That's what they teach in school. And my child is brilliant, but this is a big culture. America can be scary. She's living with a new family. She didn't necessarily know how to express herself, and so she would get really angry and frustrated. And so after I figured out what was really going on, that it's not really that she's angry, it's that she can't express herself. And this would be any child, right, that's learning how to speak and express themselves. So I had to assess the situation, and I would choose 3 adjectives and define them, and then ask her which one best fit what she was experiencing, and then we would create a solution for that adjective. So are you feeling frustrated because of this? And I would describe it. Or are you really angry because of that? And I would define it. Or is it that you don't understand what's happening, and describe that? And then we create a solution, and then we can move on from the situation. So often kids are in trouble just because they don't know how to express themselves, and they're feeling frustrated, and that flashes out at the adult.
This almost sounds like a psychology session or a therapy session if you pick one topic, because I have actually been through therapy. And when you start talking, the therapist will recognize an issue, and they dig deep into that one issue, which usually carries out into everything else. It's usually just that symptom. And is that kind of the technique here where you recognize, okay, let's talk about the feelings, and then you don't get overwhelmed by all the other noise that's going on in their life?
Yes, it's trying to get rid of all of this other stuff so that we can just create a solution for this one challenge. And so teaching the behavior, encouraging positive behavior, and encouraging the human being. The more you love on a child, and the more you connect with a child, and the more you communicate and you're in their space and part of their lives, then the stronger relationship you're going to have. So then when it is time to parent and hold accountable, it's much more easily received. And by the way, I parent in real time. And so this can create even a little conflict, right? So maybe the girls have friends over, and maybe they speak in a disrespectful way, or don't take care of a chore, or maybe even speak unkindly about someone who's not, here, somebody from school. I would parent in that moment and ask for what it is I expect out of them. And their feathers may get ruffled because now they feel embarrassed, right? Because they're in front of other people. And yet it's important that all of the people in the space recognize that, that really was a disrespectful thing to say, or that really was unkind behavior. And so I parent in real time, and that's also something that I've had to teach my girls. We don't have time for it to become some big deal. Let's just take care of it right now while it's a blip.
What about the difference of pulling someone aside versus not saying this is public ridicule, but I know you have to parent in real time in certain situations. But the importance of, let's take a step back and say, come here a second. Let's go over here and have a quick talk, a little private time.
Yes, it all depends on the situation. Yeah. If it's something like I was talking about where it's just a little blip, take care of it. Let everyone have the same exact positive information, right? If it's something that's more challenging or more deeply rooted, or maybe it's consistent struggle the child has, and so they're extra sensitive about it. Yes, those are the moments where you say, hey, let's go take a walk, or let's go in the corner. In fact, that's one of our techniques. We say walk it out. Mm-hmm. So when someone is feeling angry or frustrated, most of us need some sort of physical way to release that energy, right? And so if I can get somebody to walk it out, leave the house, leave the office, fresh air, move your body, it calms down much more quickly. In fact, I used to get really frustrated with Trisana. She might stomp her feet, right? When she was a little girl, stomp her feet. And I'd say, oh, let's leave the room with more respect than that, right? Because that's what I was getting caught up on. And then I realized, then it clicked. No, that's part of the physical release of letting that anger go. So now, stomping feet, stomp on out, walk on out the door and get yourself some air.
But some of those things are more acceptable within the household versus out in public.
Sure. Yes. And so we have very clear definitions of behavior, and we set very clear boundaries. So let's say we are at, we're all out to dinner and you're with clients or even friends. The child is getting tired. They haven't eaten that well. Now they're getting very cranky. This is going to be a time where I'm going to quietly lean over and say, I need you to sit up straight and just use calm behavior. If the child can't quite get it together, then I'm going to say, excuse us for a moment, and I'm going to take the child out walking myself. So, but you talk about that ahead of time. That is such a great key that people forget about, is that if we talk about what it is we want from each other during the good moments, when everybody's feeling rested and we're happy, that means when we hit the challenging moment, now we can say, now remember, we have a solution for this. Remember, our tools are A, B, and C. I need you to choose to use a tool. That way you're not trying to fix it when everybody's heated and angry.
Leading by example, where do the parents get these examples? If, sometimes parents don't have these skills.
Yep.
And that can be pretty dangerous, because here's some phrases that I saw that kind of hit home. If a child lives with criticism, they learn to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, that child learns to fight.
Yep.
If they live with ridicule, that person may end up being shy.
Yep.
So shame, they may feel guilty. Mm-hmm. The parent has a huge responsibility, and do you feel as though it really is the parent's, fault if a child doesn't behave correctly because it's a top down?
Well, it all depends on the human being, right? And it all depends on what that parent taught that child. If you are teaching your child to be a fighter and to be angry and to battle, that is what you're going to get. And that often trickles through several generations, right? So we as humans, we have to be self-aware enough to start to seek that mentoring and parenting from outside sources. We have to be willing to read. If we're going to bring children into this world and raise adults, I always say I'm not raising children, I'm raising adults. We have to be willing to seek resources and seek sane and expert voices to help us find their way. And nowadays there's so many great resources out there. One of my favorite consultants out there is Amy Lang. She's based in Seattle, and she has Birds, Bees, and Kids. So her specialty is to teach you how to talk to young people about sex and their bodies based on your own family values. And she's hilarious, and she's clear, and she's sassy, and people like her, young and old. And so through her, people can learn all kinds of great information, and then she has all kinds of resources as well if you have specific questions for other consultants. There are so many great places now to find coaching, to pay for coaching, to seek out, expert wisdom. It's so much easier now than it used to be. There used to be one way, and people were experimenting, and people felt embarrassed to ask for help. And man, that's one thing I knew, is that as soon as I brought these girls home, I knew that I was going to need help from outside sources. And it is not for the weak of heart, right? Parenting takes stamina and energy and endurance. So you too have to know your own boundaries. And when you get too tired and you get too hungry, you have to be willing to give your own self a timeout. Sometimes you can be preemptive. I have a friend, and she always say, yeah, I used to give myself timeouts, take my bottle of wine and go into the bedroom, right? Sometimes the timeout might happen mid-sentence where when I've been angry and I can feel that anger rising and I might have just been handling it really great. Now the anger is flashing and I've stomped my foot and I'm saying, I have to leave this space. I leave the space and get myself recalibrated, right? So we have to be self-aware enough to recognize when we're just in it too long. Don't stick in it so long and step out, you know?
If we can finish on this topic, this may take a couple of minutes, is what is your take on a parent or a coach being the authority figure, but there are some people out there that say, I want to be their friend. What is the downside of mom or dad wanting to be their son or daughter's best friend?
We're the grown-ups. We're the mentor. It is our job to be able to hold that child in safety and in love and in accountability. And so I am always going to choose the place of, I know that you're angry with me and I'm not afraid of your anger. I know you're frustrated that I'm asking this behavior of you, and I'm going to continue asking this behavior of you. I know this feels hard right now, but it's not going to feel hard later. This is just a little blip. And I'm willing to stay in it with you. I'm willing to marinate in the darkness for a little bit so that I can help us get through to the light. It's not my job to be, I am of course friendly and kind and gentle and loving because I'm a good mom, not because I'm their best friend.
There are some people that would say, and I can think of guys who their dad was never very nice. He was always stern. He wasn't really, not very touchy-feely, not very approachable. And that can have a negative effect, I would assume, just as much as the dad or the mom to the daughter who are like, oh, we're girls out on the town. We're going to be friendly. We're going to share drinks. We're going to shopping together as if we're best friends. So are those the two extremes? Is that a true negative extreme? Besties and unapproachable, he is just the hard-edged dad, or she is just the cold mom? I don't know.
Yeah, and everything is situational, and it's never our place to judge other human beings. It is always our jobs to be able to be aware and to be able to assess and to be able to do what is best in the long run for the people involved, not in the short run. That idea of always being stern and you have to do it like this. And yeah, I can think of a lot of parents who parented that way, especially, earlier generations. And yeah, their adult kids are still angry about it now. And so those adult kids have to be willing to gather up some courage and start to have deeper, richer conversations with their parents so that the kid can put that away and set down that burden. We're all just doing the best we can do.
Right.
Right? And so we only have the skills we've been taught. We only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. So we all need to have a little more room for grace and gentleness, even with the parents in our lives. We're not always right, and we have to be willing to change it up if that solution isn't working.
This is a great topic. I know there's so much. It can go so deep here with the relationship between father and son, mother and daughter, or across it between father and daughter. The roles that each of them have and the value that they can have long term.
And extended families. The idea of the modern family now creates all kinds of really beautiful opportunities for lots of great parental style relationships, and they may or may not be your biological relatives, right? We all can parent no matter where we stand. We all can nurture and mentor. And while there are all kinds of tips and techniques and styles to share, I would say that the basics are to teach the behavior you expect, to praise and love your child, to be willing to nurture the child, and to stick to your boundaries. You must have enough stamina to hold the child accountable. Yes, I can unload the dishwasher in 3.5 seconds. But if I do that, that is not raising an adult. That is enabling a child to remain a child. So I have to have enough stamina to wait it out and praise her or him when the job has been accomplished. So love that behavior into them, unconditional love, recognize we have limits, and honor our boundaries.
Lucinda, great talk today. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for Lucinda, you can find her on Twitter. The handle is Let It Shine. Leave a message there for maybe even a future topic here on the program.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you via Facebook or Twitter, right, Dave? Shoot, we can take on a cajillion topics, and you and I are well connected. So if we don't know the answers, we know somebody who certainly knows the answers, which is what parenting is all about. Seeking answers and being willing to share information so that then each of us, as we continue to evolve, whether we're children or adults, that's how we let it shine.
And with that, thank you very much for listening to us. You can listen to us on iTunes and find us on YouTube. Until next time, Lucinda, have a great one. We'll see you in next week.
Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere. Angel, look at that sky, life's begun. Nights are warm and the days are young.